This video is about obesity and a simple cure, but I would urge almost everyone to watch it because just as obesity relates to practically every other facet of health, the information in this video can help almost anybody, even if you don't necessarily have an issue with obesity. There's an incredible amount of misinformation out there about obesity. You constantly hear in the media that obesity is related to genetics. Of course, anything is related to genetics, but you can travel around the world and see people with the same genetics as Americans, and they're not obese the way we are. You also hear that people just need to exercise more, that's the issue. And again, in other countries around the world, not necessarily everyone is exercising or getting hardly any exercise at all in some cases, but again, they're rarely obese. In fact, you can see thousands of people living in other countries with all sorts of genetics and all sorts of different exercise regimes, and you will never see anyone morbidly obese as long as they're eating a natural diet. That's the problem with obesity in America, and it's easy to cure. Unfortunately, almost no one does it because our diet in America is so incredibly unnatural that almost no one returns to a real natural diet. So first, let me go over some of the potential causes of this epidemic of obesity that we have. And these are things that almost no one escapes because they're so ubiquitous in our diet. The first is unnatural fats. No one around the world and no one in history ate the types of fat that we eat. We eat a lot of liquid fat and types of liquid fat that were unknown in most cases even 100 years ago. Canola oil was unknown practically before World War II. Soybean oil, corn oil, and frying everything in these unnatural oils, nobody around the world does that, even today. That's not a traditional natural way of eating. When you fry in oil, you oxidize the oil, and it's extremely unhealthy. And there's also no way of knowing whether these different types of oil that humans have never really eaten in any quantities, what the effects of those are going to be on the body, and nobody's ever done any long-term studies on that, and probably no one ever will. Worst of all is hydrogenated oil, which is in practically any processed food. Causes a lot of oxidative stress to the body, and it's also a totally unnatural type of molecule that we never evolved to process. And it's been linked in studies to obesity in laboratory animals, and it's also been linked, in my understanding, to hardening of the arteries and other issues, but it really hasn't been studied properly. So in traditional societies, first of all, people don't fry anything, or hardly ever fry. If they do, it's very briefly to saute something, and a lot of times they'll put in some water also so that the oil never gets up to a high temperature. And the only two traditional oils that I know of that are used to any extent are tropical oils like palm oil or coconut oil, which are cold pressed, not heated during the extraction process. And then there's extra virgin olive oil. There are plenty of native societies that eat a lot of fat without becoming overweight, but they're eating totally different types of fat. Things like fresh nuts, which are lightly roasted or raw. Things like dairy, which haven't been homogenized, haven't been pasteurized, and are organic, not conventional dairy products, or organic meats.